Nora first realized something was wrong on a rainy evening when she found a small restaurant receipt crumpled in the pocket of Paul's shirt. The slip showed dessert for two, even though she'd been at a work meeting at that exact time. She tried to brush it off at first, tried to calm the uneasy feeling crawling up her spine, but the date and hour kept echoing in her head. The next day, while Paul was in the shower, a notification lit up his phone right in front of her. "Did you miss me like last night? E." The moment she saw that initial, her heart clenched. She didn't pause. She didn't think. She just unlocked the phone and opened the messages. What she found was the kind of pain no one is ever truly prepared for. Paul and Evelyn had been meeting for weeks, talking about Nora as if she were some predictable, boring obstacle they had grown tired of. Their mocking words, their flirty late-night photos, the way they laughed at her behind her back. It all hit like a blade sliding straight into her chest. The phone slipped from her fingers, and she took one silent, broken breath. But she didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She simply walked to the window, watching the rain slide down the glass, and whispered to herself, "So this is what it is." In that moment, she understood betrayal doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes the biggest heartbreak enters your life as quietly as a notification sound. And that night, Nora learned the harshest truth of all. When the two people you love most turn their backs on you at the same time, it's not just your heart that breaks. It's your sense of self. But that self would return stronger than ever. On a heavy, humid Louisiana morning, the kind where the air clings to your skin and the streetlights glow through a thin layer of mist, Nora Hale stood in her kitchen stirring caramelized onions in an old copper pan, completely unaware that her life was about to shift in a way she could never take back. Her house had always carried the same quiet, creaking wooden floors, old picture frames collecting dust, a familiar stillness wrapped around every room. Everything was predictable, comfortable, almost peaceful, until the phone rang. The shrill tone sliced through the house, and Nora's chest tightened as soon as she saw the caller ID. Evelyn Marsh, her former best friend. The woman who had inflicted the deepest wound of her life. And now she was calling as if nothing had ever happened. Before answering, Nora took a slow breath, staring out the window at the orange dawn bleeding across the sky. A storm swirled in her chest, but on the outside, she was calm, too calm. Finally, she slid her finger across the screen and said in a steady voice, "What do you want?" Evelyn's cheerful tone on the other end was almost nauseating. "Paul and I got engaged. We're celebrating tonight. You're invited." Nora's grip tightened until her knuckles went white. Paul, her partner of 3 years. Evelyn, the woman who stole him. It wasn't pain that hit Nora. Pain was old, dried, hollow. What rose inside her now was darker, quieter, colder. As Evelyn rambled about the size of her diamond, the expensive restaurant, and how Paul had finally found real happiness, Nora barely heard a word, because something inside her was snapping into place. This wasn't an invitation. It was a provocation. A final, smug challenge. After a long pause, Nora simply said, "I'll be there," and hung up. Her voice was so composed that Evelyn didn't realize she had just awakened something she couldn't control. That evening, Nora dressed simply, no dramatic makeup, no glamorous outfit, nothing showy. Her beauty was quiet, confident, and impossible to ignore. When she looked in the mirror, she no longer saw the woman who had been betrayed. She saw someone new, calm, deadly, unshakable. Driving through the city lights, jazz humming softly in her car, Nora felt her heartbeat sink with every flicker of anticipation. When she entered the restaurant, the room was buzzing with laughter and shallow joy. Evelyn spotted her and plastered on a fake, excited smile, but Nora's expressionless calmness made her falter. Paul stood behind her. The moment he saw Nora, guilt flashed across his face before he forced a smile. As Nora walked to their table, conversations died out. Something about her presence shifted the air. When she reached them, Evelyn opened her mouth to speak, but Nora lifted her hand slightly, silencing her. "I'll talk," she said. Her voice filled the entire room. And then she told the story, every detail of the betrayal, every lie Evelyn told, every time Paul played both sides. The room went silent. Evelyn paled. Paul stared at the table, jaw clenched. But Nora wasn't done. She reached into her purse, placed a USB drive on the table, and said, "Time for the truth." Evelyn's eyes widened. Paul's face turned the color of wet ash. Nora asked the waiter to plug the USB into the restaurant's screen. Within seconds, the room was flooded with video clips and audio recordings. Evelyn admitting she used Paul for money. Paul confessing he used Evelyn to move up in his career. Both of them mocking Nora together, planning how to discard her. Gasps filled the room. Evelyn's mask shattered. Paul looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. Nora felt nothing but release, pure, cold, clean release. Evelyn finally stammered, "Nora, you can't do this." But Nora laughed softly, a sound void of pain. "I didn't do anything. You did." And with that, she turned around and walked out, leaving behind a room full of stunned silence. As she stepped outside, the night air brushed against her face, crisp and cool, and for the first time in years, she felt free. She didn't know yet that what she had set in motion tonight would lead her into an even deeper transformation, one she never expected. And that night was only the beginning, because when Nora woke the next morning, the world felt strangely clear, as if the fog inside her chest had finally lifted. Her phone buzzed nonstop. People were sharing the videos from the restaurant, the truth spreading like wildfire, wiping out every piece of the fake image Evelyn and Paul had spent years constructing. Nora closed the screen, took another sip of coffee, and felt an odd kind of peace wash over her. But it didn't last long. That afternoon, a knock on her door revealed 2 police officers. Evelyn had reported Nora for invasion of privacy and blackmail. Nora almost laughed. Even now, Evelyn was clinging to the last scraps of control. Calmly, Nora invited the officers in, reviewed the complaint, then retrieved a folder from her kitchen table. Inside were messages, screenshots, transcripts, and receipts, proof of Evelyn and Paul's manipulation, all gathered long before any of this happened. When the officers reviewed the documents, they traded looks that said everything. "With evidence like this," one officer muttered, "there's no way you're the guilty party here." After they left, Nora sat on her couch, staring at the ceiling, absorbing the strange quiet that followed. Evelyn's last weapon had failed. But betrayal doesn't vanish overnight. Some wounds echo until you confront them completely. That evening, rain tapped softly against the windows as Nora stood at the glass, holding a warm cup of tea. "Why did I stay silent so long?" she whispered to herself. Maybe she had mistaken manipulation for love, envy for friendship, pain for loyalty. But now she saw everything clearly. The value she thought she had lost had never left her. It had just been buried. The next morning, a new, unexpected turn arrived. Evelyn's parents showed up at Nora's door, their faces heavy with guilt. They apologized on their daughter's behalf, trying to soften years of enabling her behavior. Nora listened politely, then told them, "Your apology isn't mine to accept. It's hers." When they left, Nora walked through her home slowly, feeling pieces of the past fall away with each step. That evening, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was Paul. "We need to talk," he wrote. But Nora felt nothing, no anger, no pain, no nostalgia, just closure waiting to happen. She agreed to meet him at an old cafe they used to visit. When Paul arrived, remorse pooled in his eyes. Or maybe fear. Nora couldn't tell anymore. He started rambling about mistakes, regret, how he didn't deserve her. But Nora cut him off with a gentle shake of her head. "Paul, you made your choices, and now you're dealing with the consequences. Understand something clearly. I didn't lose you. You lost me." The words hit him like a physical blow. But Nora stood, grabbed her bag, and walked out without looking back. As the cafe door opened, a cool gust swept over her, and she felt something inside her settle. Meanwhile, Evelyn disappeared from public view. She stopped going to work, shut down her social media, avoided everyone. When Nora heard this, she felt neither triumph nor pity, only closure. Then one evening, just as Nora curled up with a book, someone knocked. When she opened the door, Evelyn stood drenched in the rain, broken and trembling. "We need to talk," she whispered. Nora hesitated, then stepped aside to let her in. Evelyn collapsed onto the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm a horrible person," she choked out. "I was jealous of you, your calm, your life, your relationship. I didn't even want Paul. I just didn't want to lose you, and I destroyed everything." Nora listened quietly, feeling no hatred, just fatigue. Evelyn grabbed her hands, crying harder. "Please, forgive me." Nora gently pulled her hands away. Her voice was soft but firm, like truth cutting clean through the air. "Evelyn, you're paying the price for what you did. I understand you, but forgiveness is something else entirely, and I don't have it to give." Evelyn broke apart, but Nora didn't waver. This wasn't punishment, it was reality. Some people leave your life, and even when they return, the space they once held is gone. After a long silence, Evelyn stood and walked toward the door. Nora followed and simply said, "I hope you fix yourself." When the door closed, the silence that filled the house felt peaceful, complete. Weeks passed. Nora woke lighter every morning. She started new projects, reconnected with friends, rebuilt pieces of herself she didn't realize she'd lost. People whispered about how strong she was, how gracefully she had risen. But Nora wasn't strong, she had just finally chosen herself. One morning, on her balcony with a warm cup of coffee, sunlight drifting through the trees, she closed her eyes and breathed deeply. A single thought washed through her like warm light. I finally came home to myself. And for the first time in a long time, she was free.